This video is sponsored by Brooklinen.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Reissued. If you're new here, my name is Andrew. My bedroom built-in fireplace makeover is done, and I'm so thrilled with how it turned out for a couple of reasons. First, I think the design looks especially luxe and beautiful and high-end this time around. I love that. Second, there were some tricky function and layout issues for this space that I think we found really creative solutions to address. And finally, this is Reissued. You know I love a good upcycle. It's one thing to thrift an item that's already okay and take it to the next level, but it's another thing to find items that are really unloved, unwanted, and to integrate them seamlessly into the space. In this video, we're working with an entertainment center, a tabletop that had no legs, a desktop that had no desk. You know I work at the REISSUED, and these are items that would most likely sit on the floor for months and then end up in the dumpster behind the building. And so it's particularly rewarding to give them a new life, but also to save tons of money by not having to buy other building materials. So in this video, I'm going to talk you through the design process, my inspirations, how I arrived at this final design, and then I'm going to show you all the many projects that went into making this space happen. Before we get started today, if you make it to the end of this video and you're like, wow, that looks amazing, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you're already craving more upcycling, more DIY ideas, more home renovation projects, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I got lots more coming your way. I have a feeling this video is going to be on the longer side, so in case you're looking for something specific, I'm going to drop some timestamps down below so you can skip around to what's of interest to you. I can't wait to get started. Let's jump on in. Okay, so first let's talk design. Whenever I'm starting a space, I kind of think about three things. First, what are the best features of the space? What do we want to highlight? Second, what are the problems with the space that we need to find good solutions for? And third, how do I want the room to feel? How do I want to feel when I'm in the room? So best features here. There wasn't anything that was really perfect as is, but we got the hardwood floors, we got the tall ceilings, and we've got a fireplace in the bedroom, which is always a win in my book. So we're going to want to keep those features and really make those shine. In terms of problems that we're solving, I go into more detail on this in part 1 of this makeover. So if you haven't seen that video, pause this video, go check that out now. But just for a quick recap, this room doesn't get much natural light. We have the uneven textured ceilings, not an obvious place to put a bed in the room. We have the ULC, we have the UBC, we have the weird mantle overhang with this awkward half wall. So yeah, there's a lot to address here. And as for the mood of the room, I'd like this space to have more of a dark, moody feel. I tend to enjoy light, bright, airy spaces when I want to feel creative or productive, but when I want to relax, something that feels a little bit warmer and cozier and more intimate feels right for me. So right away, dark academia is on the menu here. I like that kind of cozy, dark, masculine vibe. So that's kind of our jumping off point. I've been in the process of designing this space since I purchased the house in 2021, so there's a long history here, but I think there's 3 defining moments that felt like turning points for the design of the space and helped me kind of narrow down the vision. First thing was my very first decision in this room, and that was to paint the ceiling dark. Again, we're going for dark and moody here, so if this room got a lot of natural light, I might have just gone dark everywhere. But this room only has one eastern-facing window, so it gets nice light in the morning, but throughout the rest of the day, it's pretty dark in there. So I didn't want to turn this into a dark cave for most of the day. So we're going to keep the walls pretty light, but we're going to take the upper walls from above the picture rail up onto the ceiling in this dark charcoal color called Prairie Smoke from Magnolia. This color is super rich, almost black, and I felt like it would draw attention to the high ceilings, minimize the texture on the ceilings, and give this room a bit of an enclosed, moodier vibe. Second big decision was the purchase of the bed. I got this bed at the REISSUED for $100. It was not love at first sight. I'm pretty sure I left it there and then decided to come back later in the day because I was really on the fence about it. I had never really thought about having a canopy bed in my space, but I thought it would work well with the really tall ceilings and again, giving a little bit of that enclosed feel. I was not really a fan of the color or the knotty pine or the shape on the back of the headboard. The bed won me over when I made the full leather headboard pad. That was a great DIY project and it totally transformed the bed and made me love it. But still, the bed felt like a really defining moment in the space because it started to feel very adult and a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more formal than what I'm used to personally. For me, my bedroom has always felt like the space where I can showcase my style, you know, when you grow up living with your parents and that's your space, or when you live with roommates like I did for many years, it's like everything that feels the most you kind of ends up in your own space. And so of course, there was a lot of graphic art, patterns, colors, a little bit younger, wilder, more rock and roll. But now that I have a whole house and can kind of scatter those things around to various spaces, the purchase of the bed really took this room in a more sophisticated and calm and monochromatic direction. Everything's gonna be a little bit more muted, a little bit more streamlined, more natural colors, woods, leathers, a lot of layering and sculptural elements. Which brings me to the final big decision for the space, which was the angled cabinetry going on the left side of the fireplace. I talk about the fate factor here a lot on my channel. This is not something that I ever would have come up with, but I thrifted these cabinets at the REISSUED for $25 a piece. They are so unique and weird, and I thought that putting them over there and creating this kind of origami structure would solve the problem with the fireplace wraparound situation, but also bring something that was, yes, monochromatic and yes, kind of one note, but would give this kind of texture and these angles and this interest. So we have this kind of sculptural origami style moment, and I have a plan to cover the PAX wardrobes with this kind of shoji screen type look. So we have a little bit of an Asian influence coming in here with something that feels very peaceful and zen and a little bit spa-like. So, you know I'm eclectic and then I like to combine styles. So we have dark academia, masculine, warm library vibes, plus a really sophisticated upscale adult space, plus a little bit of an Asian influence zen peaceful vibe. Got it? It suddenly became really clear to me why I needed to edit when it came to this space. Designing for yourself is one thing, but designing to share a space with someone else is something different entirely. Queenie is pretty easy when it comes to design, as long as it's nothing that's too girly. However, she does have two big design passions. Number one, she loves a big rug. The more it covers the floor, the better. So I scored this rug for $75 at the REISSUED. It is handmade, it is massive. This is the only room in my house that it will actually fit in. So we're putting down the rug. Queenie also has a passion for luxury sheets, so you know we had to go with Brooklinen. All right, we are finally ready to open up the box from Brooklinen, show you the beautiful sheets that they sent me. I cannot wait to see them on the bed. I cannot wait to try them out tonight. It's gonna be awesome. Brooklinen sheets give you the luxury feel and the luxury look at a fair price. You know I love to skimp and splurge, so I always think it's a great idea to save as much money as you can, to upcycle, to thrift, and that frees you up to invest in some beautiful high quality pieces that are gonna give that really high-end look to your space. I decided to go with the Luxe Hardcore Sheet Bundle in cream. This comes with the core sheet set, a duvet cover, and 2 extra pillowcases. By bundling all the items together, you save 25%. The cool thing is that they have 20+ colors that you can mix and match as a part of the bundle. I had thought about mixing the cream and the warm gray. They show that in some of their promo images and I think it's really beautiful. But I opted to go straight up cream this time to keep everything nice and clean and unified. I think when investing in higher end pieces that are gonna last for a long time, it's a good idea to go with something that's classic and versatile and that you're gonna love for a long time. So these cream sheets are gonna be a beautiful staple for my space. Now through August 31st, Brooklinen is running their staycation promotion. All items on the site are 15% off because you know you deserve a staycation. I know I do after this project. And so it's a great time to check out their site and add a little luxury to your life. I'll drop a link down in the description box below. Flash forward to the future here. First night sleeping on the Brooklinen sheets and I cannot wait. This has been a long project, so I definitely could use a good night's sleep. I'll check it in the morning and let you know how it went. Good night. Are you in my spot? Do you love those sheets? So I feel like I slept at a hotel last night. The sheets are so soft, but also like crisp. It just felt luxurious. It was lovely. Only downside is that I just want to stay in bed all day now. Gotta get up and start the day. Let's do it. Okay, so now that we have all of our major design ideas in place, let's pick up where we left off in part 1. We had the ULC built-ins underway, we had the fireplace mantle makeover in progress, and we had the thrifted angled cabinets in their early stages of transformation. My parents and I have been working so hard over the last couple of weeks bouncing around between all of these projects, but for the sake of clarity and storytelling here, let's take these projects one at a time, starting with the mantle.
Which still has paint on it. Ugh. Let's go back in with a paint stripper to see if we can wipe it out for good. I lathered it on and popped on the plastic, like y'all suggested in the comments. It worked better this way, but it still took multiple coatings to get a totally clean removal.
All right, I really want to finish the fireplace stripping once and for all. Really hoping we don't have to get out the paint strippers today, so we're gonna do everything that we can with sanding and heat gun. Cross our fingers that it works out.
The heat gun reigns supreme as my favorite way to remove paint. The key I found lately is to heat up an area a lot and try to remove all the layers in a whole section all in one go. The paint will want to lift off, but trying to do multiple passings can make it melt and squish back into the grain. Let it bubble up and lift it off. There was still a lot of sanding. I was even more dedicated to full paint removal on this piece than I was on the front door, since I wanted to use a standard stain, which is less forgiving than the poly stain combo that I've used in the past. So we kept sanding. That's looking better. Back to the fireplace surround. I started by painting the iron surround with the heat-resistant black paint that I had on hand. I ended up having to repeat this step again after grouting, since it was tough to keep the grout out of all the little details. 2 coats left it shinier than I might have liked, but it is what it is. Next, we needed a good solution to bridge the gap between the floor and the tile where those old green wood pieces used to be. We sanded down the floor along the edge, and I went in with an impromptu combination of reddish stain, dark brown stain, and a little bit of polyurethane for added transparency to match the existing floor color as closely as possible. I did the same process later on the newly exposed floor over by the old ULC. To give the tile wood seam a nice clean edge, we cut some 1/2-inch aluminum L-shaped angle iron to sit down in the groove and cover the edge of the wood. With a little sanding and a coat of oil-rubbed bronze spray paint, these look very sleek and polished, but blend in nicely with the floor. Doesn't this look so much better? Now we tile. This was a tricky process since the mortar we ended up applying was tougher to get flat than our previous cement board plan, so the surface was still a bit uneven. My mom and I did our best to piece things together while my dad made the cuts. The mantle is going to go over the top outside edges, so the inside is the most important part. I had originally intended to use the same geometric tile all over, but since we added the little shelf to make the uneven hearth work, I definitely did not have enough to finish the whole area. Minor panic, so I switched gears and opted to use the darker marble look porcelain tile that I used in the kitchen to cover the shelf. The edges are mitered to create a seamless edge, and since we needed more than one tile to cover the top, I thought an angled design to match the angles of the geometric tile would be nice. Looking good. Time for grout.
Alright, the fireplace tile is all laid. It's giving me Ministry of Magic. It's giving me Villain's Lair. Not mad about it. I'm loving how that looks. I think I'm gonna go in today and grout. I'm choosing to grout with a lighter color, sort of an off-white beigey kind of color, just because I want to make sure that we're seeing all of the details of the geometrics here. I think if I went in with a dark grout, we would lose a lot of that detail. However, on the little shelf thing, I think I am gonna use a dark grout just to make that nice and clean and streamlined.
When the lighter grout went on, I immediately started to panic. It was looking very busy and complicated, and we're going for clean and zen. I turned off the camera and considered pulling it all out. But then I decided to commit and see how it looked with everything else. I had always envisioned this tile with lighter grout, so we gotta trust that instinct. It's tough not to second guess every decision at this stage in the process, and I felt that in this makeover a lot. Gotta breathe, regroup, and move forward. After letting it dry and thinking it over, I decided to go in with dark paint just around the edges of the iron insert, since those strong lighter lines were definitely throwing things off. Much better. After my dad made some repairs to the plaster walls, we're ready to install the mantle. Remember those wing things that I decided to take off last time? Those came in handy for creating little spacer pieces to hold the mantle away from the wall a bit and give a more substantial look. With spacers attached, let's screw the mantle in and fill the screw holes with wood filler. The last big hurdle here was to create a solution for the bottoms. The hearth used to sit much higher, and so the bottom edges of the mantle were now too short and cut in an odd curved shape. And so we need a more solid base to cover the weird cuts and give the mantle a little more visual weight. Remember those pieces we pulled off the awkward mantle half wall? Those were actually bits of old baseboard with a pretty grooved detail. So with a little more heat gunning, sanding, mitering, and the addition of a little trim piece that I found for $3 at the REISSUED, these bases look like they've always been a part of this piece. And now it's ready for stain. I'm using the shade Espresso from Minwax. I actually got this open can in the Oops area at Lowe's for $7. I liked how the mantle looked lighter as well, but the dark, rich color will contrast the bed and match up nicely with the new ULC built-ins. Finishing touch was a coat of special dark paste finishing wax, also from Minwax, to even out and mattify the finish a bit. Speaking of the ULC built-ins, since part 1, we installed the IKEA as-is bathroom vanity cabinet from my parents' house and sourced this old desktop at the REISSUED for $10. I like that this already has a finished countertop edge and keeps that dark wood tone going. Once it's cut down to fit the width, we can also cut down the depth on the old entertainment cabinet to allow it to sit flush with the wall. After a very helpful comment on part 1 of this makeover, I decided I wanted the shelves to be dark wood to match the rest of the built-in. So we cut some shelves from this extra top piece that came with the entertainment cabinet, with the old cabinet facings being cut down to make new, thinner facings for the shelves.
Alright, so this project has been full of old house problems. Nothing is level, nothing is plumb. So we went to put the entertainment cabinet thing in the wall. And of course the wall is tipped back slightly, so once the molding goes on, it would be really gappy along the edges. And so we're actually gonna go back and recut these on a slight angle so that they'll hug the wall and the molding will just be allowed to be a little bit like crooked. The important thing to note, in a previous video, I had asked the question about how deep to make the shelves in here, whether they should come all the way out to the front or sit farther back in there. We are opting to keep this a little bit deeper and have the shelves sit further back in. And that is gonna help in this case, because if they came all the way up to the front, it would be very obvious that this is not plumb. Visually, I think it'll look just fine to have the front of the cabinet be slightly angled and the shelves still be really plumb and straight up and down so that they're functional and workable and correct.
Once the entertainment cabinet is in place, we can frame out the edges with the fluted molding that was there before. Only, since the opening is a bit larger than it used to be, I pulled the moldings off one of the entry doors that will be removed later on anyway. For a kick plate for under the cabinet, we used more of that old baseboard that was on the old fireplace half wall. Once everything is caulked and painted out in the same color, this is going to look seamless.
So this is not a full kitchen rant, but I do have a mini hot take here. Let's talk about lighting for built-ins. As we were putting things together for the built-ins, I was very sort of focused in on hardwiring some sort of lighting for the space. I thought about like a recessed light in the top of the shelves. I thought about like backlighting each shelf individually. I thought about, you know, when they do a little like sconce that hangs over the front. All of these things look pretty good in photos when it's not dark and the lights are not turned on. I was struggling to find any reference images where the lights were actually turned on and I thought it looked nice. And so it's funny, those were kind of ingrained in me as like the correct ways to light a built-in. But at the end of the day, I thought about what kind of light would I actually like in this space, which is why I ended up with the little DIY origami light. It gives off a warm, moody glow. It sort of lights the built-in at night so it doesn't feel dark and cavernous, but it doesn't feel as harsh or directed or showy as some of the other options that I was considering. So if you're lighting some built-ins, definitely consider doing what we did and just installing a plug on the side and giving you some options for putting lamps up in the built-ins. That way you can switch it up, change out the lamps over time without having to worry about holes or switches or anything like that. It's really exciting to see all the elements start to come into place. As more things go in, it starts to feel like kind of a lot. I'm trusting the process here as we start to caulk and paint everything in one color, that it's just gonna sort of merge together and unify and give a lot of really beautiful dimension, but still some simplicity to allow those real focal moments to pop.
So let's paint. This wall color is a creamy beige called Blanched from Magnolia. I always recommend using creamy whites rather than pure whites when you want a space to feel soft and warm. Plus, when you're working with lots of vintage and repurposed pieces, a true white can make your pieces feel a bit dingy, whereas cream tones make those pre-loved pieces feel right at home.
It was a very long day, but we got a lot done here. It's so exciting to see the stain on the mantle, all the walls painted, no more contractor gray. I'm really happy with how things are coming together. So ready to get some trim paint up because I think that's really gonna bring everything together.
Painting the trim the same color as the wall is really going to unify everything and lose a bit of that super traditional feel that comes with contrasting walls and trim. But while the walls were an eggshell finish, trim is going semi-gloss. When going for that monochromatic feel, I think it's a great idea to play around with different sheens to give variety and dimension. The same way the matte ceiling and high gloss fireplace tile are the same color but different finishes. This keeps things from looking too flat or matchy-matchy. The final project to tackle in this space is the angled cabinets that I thrifted for the left side of the fireplace. These will add storage and a major architectural element, but will also cover up the unfinished walls in that corner and give a place for the mantle to hang over naturally. Remember that these had to be cut down depth-wise to fit comfortably in the designated area, plus the old backs had tons of holes and cutouts in them. So with the old backs gone, my dad added some beadboard we had on hand. This was from the piece that we removed when we cut the pantry door. Never throw anything away, ever. The bottom cabinet also got a simple 2x4 base that was inspired by the base on the campaign dresser from my Thrifted furniture makeover. Once my mom painted the cabinets with the same semi-gloss blanched as the trim, we're ready to install. First, we need to attach these angled pieces that will sit in between the cabinets to space them apart, cover up some of the rough walls, and add to the architectural detail. With the base cabinet set all the way back in the corner and screwed into the wall, my dad attaches some brackets to a spacer piece that will attach to our top cabinet. We wedge the top piece in between the brackets on top and the angled spacer piece below, and then screw through the brackets to hold it in. The last big issue to resolve is this crack between the top cabinet and the wall.
So one of the big old house problems that we're fighting on this corner is that the front part of the corner is quite sloped inward. So any kind of shelving that we put on there, even if we made it fully plumb, which this is not quite plumb, we sort of matched it more to the doorway that's there. That's also not quite plumb, but anything that we put there was gonna have a big gap behind it. And so of course our first thought was to build the corner out slightly, patch in the wall, do all of that. However, if you look up at the top, there is that picture rail, and if you were to bring out the corner more, the picture rail would be too short. I was not able to find any picture rail that matched this specific style, so that would mean that we would have to pull it from another room to replace this one piece. And so part of this whole angled built-in design was to allow the corner to stay as it is, but to sort of encase it in this origami fold thing. And so it covers up the fact that the wall is quite crooked there. So I knew I wanted to do this large angled piece that was gonna go above the fireplace. And rather than going and buying a $50 sheet of new high quality plywood, I got a tabletop at the REISSUED for $8. It had 2 leaves, they were at $4 each. If we put them together and cut off the angle and add the angle to the side, we'll be able to create that full angle here in the space for $8. Not too bad, let me show you how we did it.
We start by gluing together the table leaves to get one solid sheet of wood. We had to do this again later off camera since it didn't bond well enough the first time. Be sure to apply glue to both pieces for maximum hold. Then we can make the first diagonal cut. I wanted this piece to match the angles on the cabinet so that they feel like almost one piece. But we need a little bit more width, so we attach part of the leftover piece with glue and metal plates. Once everything has dried a bit, my dad patches any holes and uneven areas with wood filler. After leaving that to dry overnight, we make the final cuts to achieve our finished shape. I wanted the edges to be beveled to further match the look of the angled cabinets, so we ran it through the table saw with the blade set at 45 degrees. We clamped a 2x4 onto the table to help us keep the piece in the right position for the cut. The wood slides right between the metal guard and the 2x4 to achieve a clean and consistent cut. After some primer, this is ready to be screwed into place. More patching, more priming, and a couple of coats of semi-gloss blanched, and this whole origami-inspired corner is complete. I wanted to keep the cabinet hardware in this room functional but minimal, since we don't want too much going on. So the angled cabinets are getting some push-to-open latches, and the built-in doors are getting an old IKEA handle that was part of a 2-pack that my parents used in their kitchen. Since we only have one, let's cut it in half, drill some new screw holes, and paint it in the same oil rub bronze paint that I used on the hearth edges. You know I had to find a new use for the Brooklinen box.
Last day on this makeover, we're gonna be putting back furniture, doing little touch-ups, little final details, just putting it all together. It's been a tough one, but we're gonna take it across the finish line. Can't wait.
The bed works so much better on this wall, and since we added the packs on the right side and need a good-sized walkway, let's go ahead and center the bed on the window. That feels right anyway. This corner looks a little weird at the moment, but I'm planning to do a leaning floor mirror over here once I find the right one, and once the bathroom door becomes a pocket door. That might be a while, but you gotta plan ahead. The sewing table, mid-century jewelry tray, IKEA vintage style clock, eyeball lamp, and sculptural lamp and shade were all from Goodwill. The nightstand, the bed, and this African sculpture were from the REISSUED. Let's finish off the space with items that I had on hand. This wood screen is a reissued original from years ago. I found it on the street for free when I lived in New York with some of the wood slats damaged. So I drew up a design and strategically cut out more of the slats to achieve a bold, geometric look. After screwing metal plates to the back to keep it flat, we hang it over on this wall, putting screws through under the hinges. This is gonna bring some warmth and dimension to this corner without being too loud or complicated. Looks nice with my grandma's black leather egg chair. Other Grandma Shirley finds are this soft green Thai celadon sculpture, and these wood block prints that I have in various areas of my house. I like to mix in pretty leather-bound books that I thrifted with books that are meaningful to me. I think it's weird to style a space with only pretty books that you've never read, but also, what's a dark academia vibe without some beautiful vintage books? And with that, the room is done.
All right, y'all, the reveal is upon us. Keep in mind here that this room is not completely done. We still need to make some doors for the Pax wardrobes. The door that goes into the bathroom is actually gonna become a pocket door at some point, so it won't just be like hanging out in the corner. I'll have that full floor length mirror there. And then of course, the UBC is gonna go away and we're gonna reopen that pathway into the guest room. Let that light pour in, it's gonna be amazing. But for now, the mood is right, the feeling is there, the core area in the center of the room is done, and I could not be happier with how it looks. Shout out to my parents for the insane amount of work that they've done in this video, not only with skills and their manpower, but also their ideas. There were so many long conversations talking about every single detail of this space, and they really helped me bring it home here. Be sure to show them some love in the comments. They love reading your comments, so just drop one down below. Also, remember that the Brooklinen Staycation sale is happening through August 31st. 15% off every item. Go check that out. Big thank you to Brooklinen for sponsoring this video. This is my first sponsored video on the channel, and it's especially meaningful to me. I remember when Brooklinen was a new brand and I was living in New York and they had the subway ads everywhere, and so yeah, it's kind of emotional. Like, thank you to everybody that's been watching. It's been a long time getting to this place. And I'm just really grateful to everyone that's been watching and making this part of my life a more sustainable thing and something that feels more legitimate. and yeah, I'm just really honored to share this makeover with you, and I can't wait for you to see more. Hit the subscribe button. Bye.